Welcome back to Freedom Friday, where we lift up counter stories of faith, hope, and resilience. Stories that challenge the dominant narrative and remind us of the power of God working through unexpected people in unexpected places. Today's episode takes us back to the 10th century before Christ, to the Mediterranean shores of ancient Phoenicia, what we now call Lebanon. There we meet a man whose legacy echoes through the pages of the Bible and history, though his name is often overlooked. He is Hiram, king of Tyre. Our feature text then is 1 Kings 5:7. When Hiram heard Solomon's message, he was greatly pleased and said, "Praise be to Yahweh today, for he has given David a wise son to rule over this great nation." Now let's pause here for a moment, because that's a Canaanite king praising Yahweh, the God of Israel. Let's dig a little deeper into this man's life. Hiram I ruled Tyre around 980 to 947 BC, during the golden age for Phoenicia. Tyre and its sister city Sidon were powerful port cities on the eastern Mediterranean coast, filled with craftsmen, traders, and seafarers. Sidon was the older of the two cities. Tyre likely began as a small port or island outpost established by Sidonians, which gradually gained economic and political independence and became dominant over its mother city Sidon, especially by the time of Hiram I. Despite Tyre's rise, the people of both cities were Phoenicians who shared language, religion, and customs. The term Sidonian was often used broadly to refer to all Phoenicians in general, including those from Tyre. 1 Kings 5:6 refers to the people of Tyre as Sidonians, indicating a shared ethnic and cultural heritage, and Tyre's origin as a colony or offshoot of Sidon. Ancient Greek historians like Herodotus and Strabo also mention Sidon as the mother city of Tyre. Why is this important? According to Genesis 10, Sidon was the first son of Canaan, the son of Ham. That means Hiram was a descendant of Ham, traditionally understood as the ancestor of Africa's nations, a black king in the biblical narrative. Now, here's what's powerful. Despite the later Israelite conflicts with Canaanites, Hiram of Tyre defies the stereotype. He wasn't a warlord or idol worshiper bent on Israel's destruction. He was a builder, a diplomat, a man of peace, and yes, maybe an unexpected worshiper of Yahweh. King David had already developed a relationship with Hiram. 2 Kings 5:11 tells us, Hiram, king of Tyre, sent envoys to David along with cedar logs and carpenters and stonemasons, and they built a palace for David. Yes, Hiram sent his skilled men, carpenters and masons, and they were the ones who built David's palace in Jerusalem. But when David died, his son Solomon inherited the throne. And what does Hiram do? Doesn't pull back. He leans in. He sends a message to Solomon, and he says to him, recorded in 2 Chronicles 2:11 and 12, because the Lord loves his people, he has made you, Solomon, their king. And then Hiram added, praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, who made heaven and earth. He has given King David a wise son, endowed with intelligence and discernment, who will build a temple for the Lord and a palace for himself. Hiram's words show deep spiritual insight. He recognized Yahweh not as a tribal deity, but as a creator, as the creator of heaven and earth. Now that's profound, coming from a man whose people traditionally worshipped pagan gods like Melkart, Ashtarte, and Eshmon. Under a formal treaty, Hiram supplied cedar wood, skilled carpenters, and artisans to help Solomon build both the temple of the Lord and the royal palace. Now, these weren't weekend projects. They were massive construction undertakings that spanned 20 years and involved hundreds of thousands of workers. In return, Solomon provided wheat, olive oil, and other goods to sustain Hiram's court. So it was a mutually beneficial alliance, both politically, economically, and spiritually. And then there's the other Hiram. You know, there are two Hirams, King Hiram and then the other Hiram, the craftsman Hiram, also from Tyre, who oversaw the temple's furnishings. He was the one who led out in the building of those furnishings. His mother was a Hebrew. His father was Tyrian, a man of mixed heritage, playing a central role in the holiest site of Israel's worship. Another powerful counter story breaking boundaries. We'll cover him in more detail in a later episode. Hiram's influence, that's King Hiram, didn't stop at land though. He joined Solomon in a naval venture, constructing fleets of ships that sailed down Africa's west coast, bringing back vast quantities of gold. Some scholars even suggest that this expedition may have paved the way for the Queen of Sheba's visit to Solomon. The fame of Israel's king was spread abroad by sailors from Hiram's port. And centuries later, Hiram's Tyre would give birth to Carthage, yes, the famous North African city of Hannibal, one of history's most brilliant black generals. But that's a story for another Freedom Friday. Let's be clear. Hiram was a Canaanite, and yet this black king becomes a friend of David, a brother to Solomon, and a servant of Yahweh. Ancient Jewish historian Josephus tells us Hiram and Solomon even exchanged riddles with each other, trying to outwit one another. Solomon may have won more often, but Hiram earned his respect. The two men called each other brother. Think about that. A Canaanite king and a Hebrew king, bound by wisdom, friendship, and a shared reverence for Yahweh. Hiram's story disrupts the myth that the Canaanites were only fit for destruction. His life reminds us that God's grace crosses borders and that wisdom, faith, and righteousness are not limited by race, nation, or religion. In a world that often seeks to divide, as it is today, Hiram's story is a model of unity, cooperation, and divine recognition. He reminds us that the stones of the temple weren't just laid by Israelites, but by the hands and gifts of a black king and his followers from Phoenicia. And that, my friends, is a Freedom Friday story worth remembering. Thanks for joining me today. Check the description box for the references we used on this episode. If this episode inspired you, share it with someone and subscribe for more Freedom Friday stories, where we reclaim the past, renew our hope, and remember the God who works through all nations. Until next time, stay strong, stay free, and stay faithful. This is Freedom Friday, where we tell the whole story.